All right, let's talk about it because this is going to piss a lot of you ladies off, but if you listen to what I'm saying, it could transform your marriage and your life. Now, it's no secret that accountability is like kryptonite to women. They can't handle it, right? They always point the blame. Like, think about it. Like, anytime you've ever heard a woman, like if you ask a woman like why she got divorced or why she left her boyfriend, right? 100% of them will say it's because he cheated or because he became narcissistic or he was an asshole, or he was verbally abusive, or he. It's never, I was a piece of shit, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do this. They never, ever, ever accept responsibility for their actions that led to that relationship failure. So for a lot of you women watching this right now, because I'm sure you're curious about what I'm going to say, you need to understand you are either a minimum half at fault, if not 80-90% of at fault of how your man is treating you. Now, here's what really happens, okay, in relationship, and I see this all the time, literally all the time, okay? Now, and this came up because just yesterday I was talking to an old client of mine who's wonderful, right? And she was telling me that, she was, that she's got a couple kids and she's going through divorce. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and blah, blah, blah. And then she kind of, basically was kind of saying that like it was going to be better for her because she'll be treated better. And I'm like, look, what most women don't realize is that man that became an asshole, started calling you a bitch and started treating you like shit, you caused it. You caused it. You triggered it. Because what happens is in relationships, when a relationship first gets together, it's hot and heavy, lots of passion, right? You're putting all this effort into one another, right? You're doing date days, you're fucking everywhere, you got everything going on, you're being super, for the ladies, you're being super considerate, you're taking care of your man, you're constantly paying attention to him, doing all kinds of stuff to win him over, right? And then what happens is, he marries you thinking that that's what he's going to be getting for life, right? And then what happens is, you get married, which the next phase is you have some kids, right? What happens after you have kids? Women, literally 100% of them, women, after kids, they actually become 1,000% mommy. And they completely neglect their man. So that man that they were putting all that into, filling his tank up, right? Filling him up like he thought this woman was the most incredible thing in the world because she was so into him. Now all of a sudden, she's taking all that and it's straight into the kids. Women, the number one crime that women make in marriage is they put their kids first. They become the priority. Their whole lives revolve around them. They give them all the love, all the attention, all everything. And then what ends up happening is that husband, he's completely ignored, completely neglected. There's nothing invested into him anymore. The dates stop, the sex stops, all the nice, considerate things, they're over with, right? She's not paying any attention to him. The only time she talks to him is because she's expressing herself in negative ways because the kids are driving her crazy or she's exhausted or whatever, right? She does nothing. She stops being a wife completely and ignores him. And what happens is a lot of dudes don't really know how to deal with their emotions. We're not trained to actually deal with our emotions properly. We're actually trained to suppress them. So we got a lot of wounds. A lot of guys have wounds from their childhood, right? Divorced parents, abandonment of a parent, a death of a parent, right? Abuse. Like a lot of guys are holding on to a lot of wounds that they never healed from. And what happens is when this whole situation and she's completely neglecting him, right? What happens is it starts to trigger those wounds. And it makes him feel, even if he didn't have wounds, it would still make him feel like shit. He's feeling unwanted, unloved, unappreciated, disrespected, right? He's feeling like he doesn't matter, right? When he's probably working all day long to provide for the family, and he gets no respect, no appreciation, no attention, no nothing, right? It's all the kids, right? And in case you ladies haven't heard this before, and this is speaking from a professional marriage standpoint. Now, I'm no marriage professional, but I have done a lot of courses and books and all kinds of shit, okay? I'm 1,000 leagues ahead of the average person when it comes to marriage, okay? And the number one thing that all the experts will tell you, all the marriage experts, everybody, all the therapists will tell you, and even biblically speaking, for you Christian ladies, the order of importance when it comes to a marriage and having children is God, husband, wife, children. Okay? Let me repeat that. God, husband, wife, children. Children are last. But yet, the women, you moms, because you're uneducated and ignorant to this, okay, and you don't understand how to be a wife, nor were you trained to be a wife, which is why I'm giving you some lessons on how to be a wife, because nobody ever taught you, okay? When it comes to your marriage and the health of your children, the order of importance is God, if you believe in one, okay? Your husband comes first, then yourself, taking care of yourself, right? Then your children, okay? Now, all of you who are moms right now watching this, have it backwards. You have it kids, you have it yourself, your friends, your family, and your husband is at the very fucking bottom. And that is why he's a narcissist. That is why he's an asshole. That is why he's treating you like shit. Because he is extremely hurt and he is resentful that you are neglecting him. That is why he became the asshole. That is why he's behaving the way that he is. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because anytime you ask any woman why she got divorced, it's because, oh, he became an asshole, he became verbally abusive, he became this and that. And she's always pointing at him, not knowing and realizing she created that. Because she, listen to me, was a terrible wife. Yup. You were a terrible wife. And you neglected him for years and years, and then what ends up happening is, and here's the phases, right? You have the kids, this all starts to play out, right? He starts to become hurt, unloved, unwanted, undesired, right? And then so he starts to become an asshole. And then when he starts to become an asshole, he doesn't want to hear any of the bullshit that she's saying. He doesn't want to meet her needs emotionally, right? Because she ain't meeting his needs at all physically, right? And then so he doesn't want to meet her needs emotionally. So then she starts to feel rejected, right? She starts to feel like she's not getting her needs met, right? And then they're fighting all the time, right? And then they get to the point where they're like, I think I married the wrong person, not realizing that they both just were terrible spouses and they didn't do the right thing to build the marriage. Marriage is like a business. There are certain things that you got to do in your marriage. As a man, your role is different. As a wife, your role is different. In order to build a strong marriage, which is ideal for your children, okay? Because when you break up the home, guess what happens to the kids? The kids get emotionally fucked up. No matter how good the divorce was, the kids are emotionally fucked up. They're wounded, which leads to them, it's going to lead to them making poor life choices and choosing poor partners, which typically will end up with them repeating the same exact process and getting divorced themselves as adults. So, I'm bringing this to your attention because a lot of you women, you think that like, when you've gotten to that point, you're hating each other, right? And I've been there with my wife, trust me. We've been there before too, okay? When I got that, when you get to that point in your life, you just want peace and you just think like, I just need to exit this relationship. We need to live separately, blah, 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 right? That's what you're going to be thinking. But here's what you ladies don't understand. Your market value, when you think that you're going to go find a better man, you're going to think you're going to go find a better situation, your market value as a divorcee, okay? Even if you were a freaking 10 out of 10 looks, you being a divorcee drops you a couple points because that man already knows she failed her first relationship, which means she did something wrong, right? And most guys kind of know that like they're going to tend to repeat these habits, right? So you already lost 2 points, right? Now, on top of that, for women, you lose market value every day over the age of like 25, okay? Like, you lose your market value to men. Okay, that's why you see these guys that are in their 50s and 60s dating 22-year-olds. Because as men, we are wired to seek the most beautiful and youthful woman. Right? That's what we are wired. Just like you're wired to seek the man that provides you the most security. Physical, emotional, financial security. Right? That's what attracts you. Now, what's going to happen is you lose value because you're a divorcee. You lose value because you're also now probably 30, 35, 40 years old, right? You're losing market value every day. And nobody's going to tell you this with me, but this is a fact, okay? Then on top of that, now you got kids. Guess what? Now you were a solid 10 smoke show bombshell. Now you're a 4 or 5 in a man's eyes because you have completely lost yourself. Because now not only are you baggage, you got emotional bullshit he's going to have to deal with. You're a divorcee. You're probably going to have some baby daddy drama. You also have children, which are going to take up your time. And also, if he is thinking of dating you because you might be a great person long term, no dude wants to be a fucking dad of another dude's kids. And nobody's going to tell you this but me. But dudes don't want to father another dude's kids. The majority of them. Okay? So you have to be really incredible for somebody to overlook that shit. Okay? So, and I will tell you, I overlooked that shit for my wife. Okay? And I'm telling you right now, ladies, as a stepfather, and I've been with my wife now 16 years, I highly recommend against it. I tell everybody don't do it. Because being a step parent is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Because you're not their father and they let you know. And they are rebellious and they don't want to listen and they are disrespectful and it is hard to be a step parent. Okay? And then there's the parenting gap between it too, right? Because it's being a step parent is fucking hard and I highly recommend against it. And a lot of guys know this. Now, a lot of you ladies think that because you got a lot of dudes in your DMs and a lot of guys trying to hook up with you, that you think, like, all these guys want you. No. They don't want you long term. They just want to fuck you. Let me repeat this. All these dudes in your DMs, all these dudes pursuing you, they just want to fuck you. They don't want to marry you. Okay? You having kids, because it's lowered your value so much and most dudes don't want to, be the father of somebody else's kids, right? My situation is different because my wife's first husband offed himself, right? So he's not even in the picture, right? Which is probably what's made it so difficult because they're a little wounded from it, right? But point is, I highly recommend against that shit. I even tell my boys, don't be a stepdad, okay? Hardest thing you ever do, build a great marriage, build a strong marriage, so that way you raise your kids healthy and you stay with one woman keep the family intact. That's best for everybody, right? So anyways, so you ladies think that you're going to go find a man when you go out there and you're going to find this dude who makes 6-7 figures and he's good looking and he ain't got no kids and you think that you're going to find a better dude, right? But well, here's what's going to happen. He don't want you, okay? You're damaged goods. You're damaged goods. You got baggage. You got all this shit, right? That dude who's here has 1,000 22-year-old 8s, 9s, and 10s with no kids, no divorce, and no drama. He ain't gonna choose you. Okay? He's just not. He's not. Okay? So the dudes that you're gonna be left with that are gonna be the only ones that are gonna try and date you exclusively are gonna be the dudes you don't want. Dudes who are fat, they don't make any money, right? They're not very good caliber of men. That is who you're gonna be stuck with. Because you have baggage. So the reason why I'm telling you this is you think it's going to be nicer on the other side after that divorce. It's not. It's going to be harder. And then you're going to be one of these women that I see all the time on social media that is crying because she's lonely, because she can't find a man that she wants. She realizes she made a mistake and she should have worked on her marriage. And her kids resent her because she divorced her husband, because 70% of divorces are initiated by women. Okay? They choose their happiness over their family. Okay? Happiness over yes, that's exactly what's happening. Right? Remember that accountability thing we just talked about? Now, so what's going to happen is you're going to be one of these girls crying on social media that you can't find the man that you want, okay? And you're lonely, and your family has completely resented you. Then your husband, right? He went and found a young 22-year-old. Now he's got a hotter, younger wife, and he's probably going to start a whole new family, right? And now you're out there alone, 35, 40 years old, right? Because you didn't work on your marriage. Because you put your kids first and ruined your marriage. Do you see where I'm going with this? And this is why I'm trying to teach you guys this. Because women are not taught how to treat men. Okay? And in order for you to create a strong marriage, you have to put effort into it every fucking day. It takes work, man. Sometimes it's hard. Right? But if you do it right, it can be very beautiful. And that is the best gift you can give your children. If you love your children, work on your marriage. Put your husband first. Date days. Schedule your sex so that way you're having sex every single week. Make sure you're doing all the things that you did in the beginning before he married you. right? Do all those things and he will move mountains for you. You won't be finding this disrespect and stuff that you are complaining about, how he became a narcissist and he became an asshole or he cheated on me, because that's also what happens too. When you neglect a dude long enough, 60% of them will go get some side piece because you're not being a wife. You're not doing your duty and taking care of your man's needs. So if you ain't gonna do it, he'll go find a chick that will. Okay, we can separate sex from emotion. Like, it means nothing to us emotionally. We can separate it. So we can go fuck a bitch and come home and still love our wives. Like, we can't. For us, that's how we do it. We don't need the emotional connection. For us, it's just purely physical if we want it to be, right? Now, with our wives, it can be more of an intimate, more of an emotional type situation, but it doesn't have to be, right? We can separate that shit. So a lot of guys, when they're getting disrespected, they're unwanted, feeling undesired, they'll go get a side piece because they don't want to break up the family, right? So that's your choice. Either he gets a side piece and you get divorced and then you ruin your kids forever, because it is going to ruin them no matter how much you think it's not, it is. And then on another note, here's another little note for you ladies. If you failed your marriage, if you did not put in the work to make it strong, take care of your man, and you failed it, the kids need to go live with dad. Because studies prove, FBI data proves, that children raised by a single father have an equivalent success as a two-parent home. But the exact opposite is true when it comes to single moms. Single moms raise the worst humans. Your drug addicts, the homeless, the rapists, the school shooters, basically the ones who commit suicide, raised by single moms, fatherless children. Right? Because a lot of you women try to use the kids as like pawns to try and hurt the man and then rape him financially. And the ones that are really getting fucked up are the children. Right? So if you failed your marriage, they live with dad full time. Okay? They need to have that strong bond with dad because he's going to discipline them and guide them into the right life. Because if you take care of them, they're going to end up strippers, porn stars, or in jail or dead. Okay? So send them to live with dad. All right? You want to go try and find your hypergamy, be hypergamous, and go try and find a better guy, you're going to find out you're going to be alone. But he lives with dad. So anyways, that was really what I wanted to talk about today, because I'm a huge fan of building strong marriages. And like I said, it takes work. And you're going to have rocky times. You're going to have tough times. It's a guarantee. And relationships are a personal development journey. They require constant personal growth. And daily discipline and effort invested intentionally. Because after the honeymoon phase ends, it requires intention. You have to discipline yourself to do the things that you don't naturally feel like doing anymore. Right? So that's my TED Talk for today. Thanks for tuning in.